Well. Good afternoon, West Ham. Rush to the West Ham Network. Hope you're all safe and well. Graham Potter has just finished his press conference ahead of the game against Everton on Monday. A weird press conference, I thought. For me, there was, as always, we didn't quite get the questions that we all wanted, as usually happens. However, there was some interesting ones, and yes, there was even a question about the memes at the end, but we'll cover that at the end. But it was actually the only time he proper sort of like showed a bit of personality. I think, in all honesty, it was almost like it was all very, what's the word? I don't really know what the word is. It's rather than all the sitting in the doldrums all the time. There was a little bit of light to it, which sort of, I was like, oh, okay, fair enough. So let's start. So in terms of a lot of questions about speculation, a lot of questions about seeing just about seeing all this mass sort of I can't think of the word now. Jeez, sorry, my brain's gone to mush. This sort of all the media coverage around maybe potentially having lots of people up for the job and West Ham, allegedly to leave, interviewing for the jobs. It doesn't affect me. It's other people's job to create speculation. If results aren't good, then it happens, and I expect that's because they haven't been good. I have nothing to complain about that in any perspective. And then he went on to say, I spoke to the owners, as we do every week. They're positive talks, but no one is happy with where we are at. At the same time, you have to look at the context of the situation and not get caught up in the noise. There was a lot of sighing. There was almost a sense of the inevitable. That's what I got. It got like a guy like working his notice. That's what it seemed. It's sort of going through the motions a little bit. And obviously it's clear that things need to change. And he says, I'd like to change it now for the next game. All we want, he basically said, we all want that. We want to play sport at the highest league, so nothing is straightforward. We concentrate on that, what we can control, and not about timeframes or anything like that. So again, timeframes probably alluding to the fact that we're led to believe he's got his 2 games left before the international break. There's not a minimum of 4 points. I think they wanted 4 points from 3 games, and so he lost 1 game, but you've got 2 games left. So even if he loses and he wins the Arsenal game, technically he hasn't hit their quota. And asked about sort of scrutiny, because obviously everything's been scrutinised by us, by the media, by everyone, and rightly so. Results have not been there. And he said, we're all the same. If you don't win enough, you're under pressure and scrutiny. If the conclusion is that the results aren't good enough and the coach is the problem, then the consequences are the consequences. There is another way to look at it, but whether we do is another thing. So basically, he was sort of saying, look, I know my head's on the chopping block. That, I read through it. It was almost like, I think Budgie did a show on Wednesday called him Dead Man Walking, and he had that bit of sort of, it's almost that inevitability coming through in terms of what he was trying to say. And that took up the vast majority of the press conference. Asked about team news, basically said, we're still without Aaron with this stomach issue. I don't know. It's some stomach issue. In it, reading between the lines. As I said, he was on the matchday squad, the announced matchday squad for the Spurs game. Yeah, for the Spurs game. And then wasn't featured at the Crystal Palace game. Not going to be featured on Monday as well. Don't know. Something a bit. I think it's a little bit fishy now, personally. If it's a week out, stomach issue, unless he's literally got appendicitis, which he could have, or something like that, where literally, but we haven't heard anything about that. All we've heard is a stomach issue, which is quite nondescript, really. But apart from that and Souček suspension, we are ready to go. Obviously, travelled to Everton. Asked about the sort of threat that Everton poses. We all know about the quality that Grealish has got, but they've got lots of players, whether that be better up front and Dye coming off the side, O'Brien pushing on, or Dewsbury Hall. Yeah, 2 of those 4 we were linked with. They've got lots of options in attack, and it'll be a tough game. He says, "Yeah, we know what David Moyes' side's going to be. They're going to be organised. Organised. That's an idea, isn't it? Take heed, take heed, Mr. Potter. Organised." And then someone asked whether he'd like to replicate the Forest game. Of course, you'd want to fucking replicate the Forest game. He won a game, gets a clean sheet, and basically he said, you know, if you said if you said to me today, do you want a clean sheet and 3 points? I'd bite your hand off. Of course he would. Did a lot well at Forest against Sun. Ironically, we did a lot well until we conceded. So there are always bits in games you can take, but it's bits in it. That's the problem. We need to be good, better than we were in the first half against Palace in terms of balance between defence and attack. We'll be looking to improve. Well, I bloody well hope so, because we haven't won a game since that Forest game, and we've lost 2 London derbies. So I hope we get better. And then the last question we'll talk about properly was about dealing with pressure. Obviously, with scrutiny and pressure, because it's part of the job. It's what you sign up for. I've got to be grateful for it because it allows me to grow, to take me to the brink and the edge of my ability, which is how you improve. And that was in reference to the backdrop of all the protests and stuff like that as well. It's great to be winning every week, but that doesn't happen. Well, it can do. I do my best with dignity and respect and try to improve the club. As I said, then he was asked a question about bloody the memes, and of which he said that. Well, no, let me take that off. Of which he said that his son has found it hilarious. He hasn't got a favorite. One, but he says he found it very funny. Yeah, that was it. That literally was it. So not particularly exciting. But that was the Graham Potter press conference. The penultimate Graham Potter press conference, possibly. Even the last one, if we're led to believe that there may even be a change after the Everton game. I think that's hardly unlikely, personally, because, just the way the week falls, you've got Everton on the Monday, and then you've got what's name on the Saturday. However, we did get Potter in, like literally on the Friday. Do you remember the Thursday night, and said the Friday morning? Literally had like one training session. So anything's possible. Anyway, we'll have Hammer's headlines a little bit later on, talking about Potter and the players and the senior players. Anyway, until then, much love. Don't forget to like, comment, share. I'll see you later, potatoes.